Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our final webinar for Sleep Health Week 2025. We're absolutely delighted we've had a really successful week and really excited for this particular webinar today too. It's called the Plate to Pillow Pathway, How Food Impacts Your Sleep. And I'm very interested to hear this, not only from a Sleep Health Foundation point of view, but just on a personal level. I think I actually want to know a lot more about how food affects sleep. And there's so much work to be done in this area. So before I start, my name is Moira Junge from the CEO of the Sleep Health Foundation, and we are wanting to acknowledge our traditional owners. The land on which I am coming from is the Wurundjeri country, the land of the people of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects, and the Sleep Health Foundation pays respects to all First Nations people, leaders past and present, as well as pay respects to the lands and leaders of where you're coming from too. If you've wanted to, you could put in the Q&A where you're from. We actually haven't got a chat function for the webinar today, but your questions will go into the Q&A function. And with about 15 minutes to go, we'll open up the questions there. We'll have a look at it and put them to our panel. But in the meantime, what I want to do is just introduce the panel one by one briefly and have a bit of a chat to them. So I'll stop sharing the slide here so you can actually see us a little bit more. And welcome here. We've got Dr. Charlotte Gupta, we've got Simone Austin and Dr. Tetiana Rox, who are giving you a wave here. Charlotte is from the Central Queensland University. Simone is the Chief Health Officer of Healthylife. And Tetiana is the, I think, Director, I'd say, of the Food and Mood Academy. So let's start with, I'm going to just ask the panelists one by one, really, I'm going to have a bit of a chat with them all for 5 minutes each, and then we're going to bring it into a whole panel discussion. And then, as I said, when we've got a bit of time at the end, it's opening up to Q&A. I'm just going to check the Q&A now, just to see that it is open. Yeah, I think, so I'd love someone to put something in the Q&A, just a little hello or something, we'll just check that it is working properly, because if we've got plenty of time to work it out later than finding that out with 15 minutes to go. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks everyone. It's working. So I'm going to start with Tetiana. So tell us a bit about yourself and how you are doing what you're doing, why you're so interested in food and mental health and all sorts of things, and sleep by association. So over to you. I'm just going to get you to introduce yourself better than what I did.
Excellent. You've done a great job. Thank you so much, Moira. And thank you for having me here today. What an important topic, sleep. Look, I love sleeping. So I love to sleep more. So I'm actually very much looking forward to learn a little bit more today as well. So my name is Tetiana Rox. I'm a senior research fellow and the director of the Food and Mood Academy at the Food and Mood Center, Deakin University. You probably hear my accent. So I was born and grew up in Ukraine, and I would love to use this opportunity to acknowledge courage and bravery of Ukrainian people. I also would love to say thank you to all of the Australians for your continuing support of Ukraine. So I work in food and mood. So everything to do with how food we eat every day impacts our mental and brain health. And there's few things I just like to point out before we go into Q&A. First of all, you can connect with us and follow evidence-based information presented in a way which you can actually apply in real life. So no, scientific mumbo jumbo. Everything what you need to know in a very applicable and practical way. There's few things we can talk about. So we can talk about the evidence and what do we need to know when it's come to food and mood. So one thing I would like you to remember, it's diet quality really matters. The evidence is now very strong that people who eat more whole, not so much processed foods like your vegetables and fruit and legumes and grains and nuts and seeds tend to experience better mental health outcomes, including lower risk of depression. Conversely, unfortunately, we see when people consume too much food with added sugar and salt and animal fat, it really does not have a fantastic impact on their mental health and by association on their sleep as well. We also see that gut-brain axis play a very key role when it's come to brain health, to mood, and even sleep. And there's quite a few mechanisms involved there, including our nervous system, our immune system. What we see in terms of diet, the dietary fiber diversity, so lots of different plants in your diet and fermented foods can play a very supportive role for our gut health and by extension for our brain as well. We also understand that sleep and nutrition and food are very interconnected. We know that poor sleep can drive unhealthy eating behavior, increase our cravings for different foods, for example, consumption of caffeine or coffee. And then on flip side, eating too late, consuming too much coffee, or having meals very high in fat or sugar close to your bedtime can really impact our sleep quality. It's kind of, no matter who you look at or no matter who you are, you're very young or a little bit older, diet plays the role in our mental health across the lifespan. We see that even before we're born, what pregnant women consume during pregnancy is actually have some say in behavior, in cognition of their children. And I'm saying that not to put more pressure on our expecting mothers. We don't want to do that, but just to raise awareness how important food is for our mental health. In adulthood, we also see that diet is a modifiable factor which can support our mood and mental health. There's so many determinants which impact our state of stress and depression, like environment and social factors, and even our genes. And many of them are not easy to change. Diet, for most of us, we can do something about. And it gives us, I think, all sense of hope and sense of empowerment. And we see that across life. It's important as we're getting older, we all live longer, which is fantastic. We need to try to live happier and smarter as well. And eating well plays very important role for your brain as we age. And that's probably all what I wanted to mention. Maybe just to finish up, I'd like to bring our attention to that. Look, I've been dietitian for a while, and for so long we link diet just or food to say appearance or our body size, which is such a wrong way of looking at food because food is so much more than feel or calories or reducing or increasing. Its culture, its connection, its pleasure, its memory, and it's a very important and very pleasant part of life. So supporting our mood through food, it's not just about nutrients, specific parts of our diet. It's about creating balanced approach, which works for you, for your family, enjoying meals with others, and reducing stress and confusion around eating. So if you want to know more, follow us and let's hear what our other speakers have to say about food, mood, and sleep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that
You.
brief, fantastic overview. We'll get back to Tatiana when we have a panel discussion later and also your Q&A. So think about your questions already. You can start putting them in the chat if you want, into the Q&A function if you wanted to. I'm going to move on to Charlotte. And Charlotte, over to you. I want to know a bit more about what you're doing, where you're working, how you got into being interested in food and sleep. And particularly, we're going to tap into your expertise with the non-standard work and the timing of food. But over to you to just answer introduce yourself more fully and answer those sort of questions around, what you're doing now, what you're focusing on.
Yeah, thank you, Moira. Hi, everyone. So I work at Central Queensland University, but in Adelaide on lovely Ghana lands, which is confusing, but um, Adelaide based. So I have a psychology background, and so come to food and nutrition from a slightly different angle, where my research started looking at shift work and non-standard hours and safety and performance at night, and when it's shift work is messing with our sleep-wake routine, and how we can optimize performance and safety for shift workers. And food is something that a lot of shift workers tell us is used for as a fatigue countermeasure, almost like caffeine and naps and all these other things. And there's just very little, there was no evidence really on what food was doing at night on performance until I did my research and looked at snacking at night as beneficial for performance. So really focusing on timing of food intake, and like Tatiana said, not seeing food as a bad thing or something that we need to reduce, or here's what you're doing wrong, but more how can we optimize food timing for our performance and our safety. And then I work within a human factors and operational readiness team, and we also do a lot of work with sleep as well. So food timing and safety, performance and sleep is really how I would sort of wrap up the keywords of my research. Um, but yeah, really interested in the non-standard work hours and optimizing food timing. So particularly for night shift workers, many workers who are awake at night are eating at night, and that's not always a choice. So it can be unavoidable to have to eat at night. You're sleeping during the day, you've got work, you've got life happening during that daytime period, and then it might be having a dinner meal with your family, going off to night shift, needing to eat something during the shift, getting home, having a breakfast meal with the family before you head off to bed. And so my research is really, okay, well, if we're going to be eating during the night shift, what is the ideal timing and type of that food? And so far we've looked at a snack as being the best option. The ideal type of snack and timing, I haven't looked at yet, trying to get funding to answer those questions. So watch this space. But what I know from working a lot with shift workers and sort of tapping into that lived experience is all the barriers we see to eating at night and changing that eating pattern for shift workers. So what's available on shift? If you're working during the day shift and you're working in a hospital, you can go to the canteen. You might be able to leave the hospital and go to the cafe next door, go to a supermarket. Working a night shift might mean you're only relying on a vending machine or what you can pack and bring from home. If you have the means and the time to be packing to bring things on shift. For ambulance workers, police, a lot of emergency services, they're out in cars, in trucks, can't be sort of bringing foods to eat. And so that's another barrier. And so it's how can we really make the most of all of those barriers and give advice on what the best thing is to eat at night, knowing that eating is such an important countermeasure for people for safety, also a mood giver. So we've all been in a bad mood and reached for chocolate, reached for those maybe less healthy foods, but very healthy for our mood. And eating those at night isn't ideal in terms of our health and our safety, but good for our well-being. And so I don't want to come in and take that away. What I haven't touched on is why we need to focus on the eating at night so much, which, to give just a really brief overview, is our body isn't primed to be processing food at night. So our body wants to be asleep, not digesting food. And so eating at night is a challenge to our system. We're sort of forcing it to digest food at a time when all of the processes involved in digestion are slow. And that means we're taking resources away from being able to perform safely. And for our health, that means that we're challenging all those processes. So, for example, our glucose metabolism is slowed at night. And so eating food, our body's more likely to keep that sugar, that glucose in our system for longer and turn it into fat rather than using it for energy, which is one of the reasons that shift work in the long term is associated with diabetes and obesity. So it's trying to really optimize what we can eat at night without saying don't eat at night, because that's not feasible to say.
Yeah. Gosh, that's fantastic. It's such a good overview. I've got so many questions for you, but I'll wait till we see what questions come from the audience. Thank you, Charlotte. I want to introduce Simone and welcome, Simone. Thank you for joining us. It's so great with you. Tell us about you and I know, we know you're a dietitian. Well, I didn't say that earlier, but tell us everything about you, why you're interested in food, what you've done so far with your career, and then your thoughts or, just high level sort of overview of the importance of food and sleep and this topic.
There's lots to build on from what Tatiana and Charlotte have, so I'll probably keep my thoughts on that to fairly practical ones to build on what they've said. But I am a dietitian. I have worked in the space of elite sport for a lot of it. So in AFL at Hawthorn Football Club and Melbourne Storm and Melbourne City and places like that for a long time, Australian cricket team. So spent probably 20 odd years doing that. And that links quite well to talking about food and sleep and all of those things around performance that Charlotte was talking about. Because if you think of athletes, they're always looking for that edge of performance. So I'll talk a little bit about that and how I can benefit from that, which led me to write my book called Eat Like an Athlete, because I think there's a lot from athletes we can learn for our own movement, sleep, and eating. We don't have to be athletes to learn some of those benefits. So I'll talk a bit about that. And my role now, because I've always done other things alongside of working in elite sport, probably more that public health side and with individuals in a private practice. But I'm now, as Moira said, I'm the chair of the Health Advisory Board at Healthylife. So it's sort of like a public health role in a commercial business, as Healthylife owned by Woolworths Group. So I'm all about setting what health could and should look like for us as a business and really advocating, particularly around environments. Because as Tatiana and Charlotte mentioned, a lot of what they talked about was we've got the theory, but then it's how do we put it into practice? Because all of our environments around us, what hours you work, do you live in a noisy place in a household where you can't sleep? Can you afford the food? Do you have somewhere to cook it? Do you have the time? Is it close by? Our environment's actually something I'm very passionate about. I'm passionate about connecting that with my food, because we can have all the knowledge in the world about going to sleep early and eating the right food to connect. But without that practical part and that support around us, it doesn't mean we're going to put it into practice. So I suppose my build on from what Tatiana and Charlotte was saying around sleep and food and how that comes together is, for instance, sometimes we don't have enough time, we need more sleep. So the bit to that then is, how do we create time? And time is something that none of us can actually get more of, but we can determine how we split it up and how we do it in our 24 hours. So it's about how do we make it a bit easier. So if we are wanting to go to bed at a certain time at night, but we want to eat at a certain time so that it benefits our sleep, how do we make it happen? And for me, it's things like making cooking not take so long so that when you get home from work or school or kids' activities, dinner's not going to take an hour and a half to put on the table. How can I get it on the table in half an hour? So it's things like using a mixture of fresh, frozen and canned veggies and not feel like you're cheating when you're opening the packet of frozen veggies and pouring it in. They're perfectly nutritious and it's okay to do that. I was making a curry on the weekend and I wanted to make this duck curry that I had in a restaurant, a duck curry. And I thought, I was trying to look at a recipe book, so I was thinking I would make the whole Thai paste myself, and then I couldn't find one. And then when I did find a recipe, I'm like, that's going to take me all Sunday. I'm not doing that. So it's not cheating that I went and bought a Thai curry paste to then put everything else in. So I think that's one thing is in the evenings and particularly during the week, make it quick so you can get dinner on the table at a time that's not going to impact your sleep by you being too full. Or it's not going to have you cleaning up and doing the dishes so that it gets late and then you have no time to wind down before dinner. So make life easier that way. My other one on that is do a little bit of prep if you can, but it doesn't mean all Sunday has to be prep day. It just might mean when you're cooking that you cook double. So if I made the duck curry, unfortunately, I made enough for about 4 nights and I'm really over it now because I've eaten it for lunch and dinner for a few nights now because my kids went home. But, pop it in the freezer so you can get it out another night. Or I was thinking about lunch today, I've got grabbed Friday, so grab open the fridge. What's just left in there to quickly pop in a bowl and add a good dressing on. So salad for lunch that you can then take the next day to work. Or if you're a shift worker, that you might have dinner but pack a little bit, or it might have been lunch that you want to pack a bit more for dinner that night or for the next day. And often it's just adding a different dressing to a salad. Same ingredients, but today it's a Mediterranean salad and tomorrow it's got an Asian dressing on it and you've thrown in a few peanuts to make it Asian versus some feta cheese to make it Greek. So I suppose just make life easier for yourself that way. Sorry, can I just add one more point? Is that okay, Moira?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the other part is to think about how food will absolutely help your performance without it being that you're suddenly not going to perform today because you didn't eat the right food today or you ate too much chocolate or whatever. It's really about what you do on the weeks and the months rather than the hours or the days. And the same with the impact on your sleep. A Mediterranean style diet in particular has been shown to be really good for sleep. And that's good because it helps feed your gut bacteria, that helps control your appetite, it makes you just feel better about yourself, you're more likely to exercise. And that's the thing that builds up over weeks and months, not over one meal. So don't get too fussed that one meal is going to ruin your sleep or ruin it for the week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Moira.
Yeah, such good points. There's so much there. Like the brief introductions from you three, there's just, I've got an enormous amount of questions already. I think that I might just ask a couple of them and then I can see that people are putting questions in already and we'll get pretty quickly to that. But I know that from my bias I've been a long time clinician, like talking to people about their sleep as a psychologist. And a lot of people would say, oh, what are there good foods I should have or shouldn't have? So I'm going to start with just that. Anyone who'd like to have, is there foods, or particularly Charlotte with all your research with non-standard work, what about just the general person who's got standard work? Are there particular foods that they shouldn't have or they could be leaning towards that will help them with their sleep? Or is that an overstated thing? I'd love to hear your views on that.
Yeah, so in general, we've sort of looked at a diet level and then specific food level. So I've done reviews on food and sleep. And so diets high in carbohydrates and saturated fats. So that's your sort of overall diet, not one day or one meal of eating, but sort of month of eating.
Yeah.
High in carbohydrates and fats, higher than we would recommend, is associated with poorer sleep. Higher protein diets associated with better sleep. And that sort of Mediterranean diet is associated with good sleep outcomes as well. In terms of specific foods.
I'm going to interrupt you because the Mediterranean diet that tell our listeners, our viewers, exactly what people mean by Mediterranean diet.
Yes, great point. So it's a lot of sort of fish, a lot of vegetables, oils. But the details of it are escaping me. Do either of you, Simone, are you?
Nuts.
Nuts. Yeah.
Seeds, lentils, legumes, basically lots of plant foods and small amounts. It doesn't have to necessarily be fresh, as in it can be frozen, can be canned, whatever, but lots of plant foods and moderate amounts of animal foods is probably the easiest way to describe it. I'm not sure if Tatiana wants to add. And lots of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah.
Great summary there. I just wanted to add, because sometimes, look, we all come from different cultural backgrounds, and sometimes people do get a little bit frustrated or limit themselves when they think about Mediterranean diet. What if I'm, for example, of Chinese background or Ukrainian? So it's about principles of Mediterranean diet. And I work with people all over the world, and we unpack a Mediterranean diet for Brazil, for India, for Ukraine. We look what's in it. As Simone mentioned, lots of plants. So you don't have to be vegetarian or vegan, but think about plants. So think about your legumes, think about whole grains, fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, with a healthy amounts of proteins, which usually come from seafood, but also, of course, your poultry, a bit of red meat, and extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupted you, Charlotte. Yeah.
No, great. Good interruption. That were great answers. And then in terms of specific foods, so we say general sleep hygiene guidelines, and based on our sort of digestive system, not to eat sort of 2 hours before bed. So give our body time to rest and digest the food before going to sleep. So we're not challenging our body with doing everything it needs to do while it's sleeping and digesting food. For our dinner meal, we can try and optimize our sleep by including foods that are high in melatonin, so that sleepy hormone, and high in tryptophan, which is an amino acid that's a precursor to melatonin. So those foods, so tart cherries are really high in melatonin, maybe not as high in loveliness to eat, but tart cherry juice, nuts, so pistachios and walnuts, fatty fish, especially salmon, eggs, milk, mushrooms, grapes, strawberries, lentils, broccoli. And you'll notice a lot of those foods are the foods that we talked about as part of that Mediterranean diet. So those foods are quite naturally high in melatonin, that sleepy hormone. So if you're wanting to kind of optimize that dinner meal, then having those rich foods is ideal.
Yeah, that's great. I'm keen to get to the Q&A because I know that there will be plenty. Is there anything before we jump into that? Is there anything from Simone or Tatiana that you wanted to add to anything we've talked about yet, or something you think I forgot to say this, or anything else you want to? I thought
I just share one slide because I forgot if you just let me share one slide.
absolutely love that. Yeah.
Sorry, just if I can share this one, is to show that it's a myth that eating healthy is expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, this is how Australians eat at the moment, and we spend a huge amount on our discretionary foods or our less nutritious foods. And if I just, oh, I don't think I have it, sorry. If you look at the Living Healthy report, it will show you that it's actually cheaper to eat healthy and one that will support our health. So to eat lots of vegetables, legumes, grains is actually going to be cheaper. So I think that's important. You don't have to buy special foods. You don't have to go down the health food aisle. Actually, just the foods that we often eat, but just don't eat enough of, is probably one of the biggest challenges. Sorry, so I'll stop sharing that.
Such a wonderful point here, Simone. And I just like to chime in and say that remember about marketing, remember about healthy food marketing. So your healthy food is on a perimeter of the supermarket. So your veggies, your fruit, your dairy. So foods which not being overly processed. All the food we eat have some kind of level of processing to them, so we shouldn't worry all that much about that. Let's kind of go back to basics. And we also did, I just want to make a point or support the point Simone made about the cost of healthier eating. We calculated it definitely does not cost more to eat healthier. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, you do need to know what you're doing. You need to have time to plan, have some resources, and have some skills, just basic cooking skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's environmental things, there's good messages so far from you three around not just that day to day or just that one bit of food. It's just more principles, overall principles. It's food groups and rather than, so it's really some really good builds that you're giving to all of us. I know that time is of the essence, and so I think it's easier now to just jump into our wonderful audience's questions. And the first one, obviously say it's for Charlotte. My daughter works on night shift, 6:30 p.m. till 5 a.m. What is the optimistic timing of food intake and her breaks for food? So it's probably going to be hard, but in general, they have brief breaks, but we worry here about eating snacks. Might be, the carbs and the sweets keep her awake, I guess. Should you eat before going to sleep? All that sort of stuff you talked about. So with a case study like this, as brief as possible, Charlotte, if there's because it's hard when not knowing this individual as well, lots of other factors. But are there any sort of high-level responses to this question?
Yeah, so I will quickly just share this slide and have it on while I'm chatting so anyone can grab the QR code. So this is a project we did co-designing some resources with young shift workers. So we asked a whole group of young shift workers what they wanted to know, and particularly relevant to this is what they wanted to know about diet. And so we have free resources that talk about timing and types of diet for shift workers, what we know so far, and we'll update those with evidence as it comes up. So you can scan that QR code, go to healthyshiftwork.com, or use the follow us on Instagram. In terms of this example, the sort of what to eat when you get home from a night shift is a really challenging question, because it's maybe you've had a snack during the night shift, which is what we would recommend, and we recommend ideally nothing too highly processed and something that's high protein and lower in fiber. So something that's going to give you sort of energy and sustenance, not too high in saturated fats. But you have that snack, and then maybe you get home from your night shift and you're really hungry still, but also you're really tired and want to go to sleep. If you're going to eat something, we would say a lighter snack as well, so then it's not challenging you while you need to get off to sleep. You don't want to go to sleep if you're feeling super hungry, because that's going to then wake you up during the day when your body's going, well, I'm primed to be awake and I'm wanting food. It's the daytime for me. So trying to eat something small before you go to sleep, and then having that more substantial, like big breakfast when you wake up from your daytime sleep, which is probably in the afternoon. But that's what is breaking your fast of that long daytime sleep. So it's trying to sort of, if you have to eat close to going to bed, trying to make sure it's just something light.
So same principle really, whether it's you're a day shift worker or a night shift worker.
Yeah.
Just before bed, don't have a massive meal. It's just sort of the same principle. And can I ask a really basic question around, because you talk about snack and meals, that's someone who doesn't study food and nutrition and stuff. Is there a definition of an easy to understand difference between a snack? Because sounds like some people won't say a snack is this big bowl of pasta, or so a snack is a bit subjective, I think. So is there an answer to what a snack is and what it isn't?
Yeah, and I will give what I think, and then Simone and Tatiana, if you have answers as well. What we've used in the research we've done is something that is around 10 to 15% of your overall energy intake, which I know is not something everyone just knows off the top of their head. I don't know off the top of my head. But so for a standard sort of adult male, that would be around 200 calories. So it's not a hugely substantial snack. That could be sort of a sandwich that's not too full. That could be some nuts and something else. So it is quite on the smaller sort of snack side.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to add to that is that we often think of snacks and that they need to be a bar or something. And I think I answered in the one of the questions in the chat box, is that you can think of snacks as mini meals. And particularly when I did that with athletes, it's a better way to be able to get in more of your core foods. Otherwise, we tend to grab muesli bars or confectionery bars to think of a snack if we don't have the ones that great ones that Charlotte's mentioned. So, if you've got a little bit of leftover dinner, or the rest of the family's had, it doesn't mean you can't have that. You just have a small amount of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Quickly, flaxseed oil, thoughts? Good for sleep? I mean, is there anything known that it should be avoided or should be used in copious amounts? Any just good, bad?
It's a good source of plant-based omega-3. So we sometimes mention omega-3 in terms of brain health and mental health and Mediterranean diet. So flaxseed oil is a plant-based source of omega-3. It's could be a wonderful addition to your everyday eating. It's just very much depends in what context you're looking at flaxseed oil.
You can't take a shot of flaxseed oil and think it's going to make you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Okay. Yes, I think there's another one here. Thank you for sharing these points. I resonate with many of what's shared, including shaping the environments. Just wondering, what's the pathophysiological aspect behind the effects of high, I guess that's carbohydrate, SH as a CHO, and high fats food consumed over a period of time that may have impacted on sleep? I think this is sort of a general one about, fiber and gut health, etc., and hormonal implications. I wonder whether the two dietitians might want to have a go at answering that question there about this particular question there. Simone, Tatiana?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a go. We just in general look just thinking in very general terms, you know. I think Charlotte maybe mentioned observational studies, so large epidemiological studies which lead higher consumption of carbohydrates and fats and poor sleep. But generally, when we're talking about eating, say, foods with high amount of fat closer to sleeping, our body really working overtime trying to process all that food. So this is something you kind of don't need to do while you're trying to rest and relax and kind of go to sleep. So also high carbohydrates, sometimes it could be simple sugars. This is something to also which kind of goes straight into energy resource, you know, and might keep us awake as well. But that's like very, very general answer. In looking at large epidemiological studies and specific food consumption or food group consumption, like carbohydrates or fats, it's specific macronutrients. These studies show U-shaped relationships. So too little of something, too much of something is not a good thing. So sorry, it's a boring answer, but you got
the great answer. No, that's great. I think that we'll leave it at that for this one. There's lots of other questions to get through in these webinars. It's whether you do half an hour or an hour, there's always so many questions. So we'll keep moving. I can answer this one. If it's recommended not to sleep 2 hours after meals, is napping after lunch not recommended? No, that doesn't mean that. It means that napping after lunch is something that our bodies are pre-programmed to do. We have a post-lunch dip in our circadian system, whether we've had food or not, that we all have a dip in our alertness, and there's, you know, a lot of us do want to have a nap after lunch, or even after whether you've had food or not. So don't worry. But if you've had lunch and you want to have a nap after lunch, definitely have a nap after lunch. I think napping is another story. We'll do a whole webinar on napping. That'll be great, and we'll get Charlotte back, particularly around napping. Anything else you want to say about that, Charlotte? That napping question and food?
No, I think that was a great answer. I guess just that the difference is that at night our body isn't primed to be digesting, so all of those processes are slowed, which is why it's harder than during the day when our body's sort of happy to have food and process it.
Yeah, absolutely. This one, if I eat less at dinner, I'm awake as my tummy is empty and noisy and I get reflux. Is it okay to drink some milk at night, perhaps 2 or 3 a.m.? Is it healthy to do that? I think who wants to answer that?
Well, I think there's a few things to that. You shouldn't be eating so less at dinner that you are waking up in the night, and I think that's probably the key issue. Having a look at maybe adding extra, I don't know what's on your plate, but let's assume that maybe you could add extra vegetables onto your plate, extra salads onto your plate. Have you got maybe a whole grain source of carbohydrate like brown rice over white rice so it fills you for a bit longer? Did you actually put enough protein in your meal? So to me, the first thing came to mind was that you're actually under eating. If you shouldn't be waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock hungry. If you really need to have a glass of milk in the middle of the night, yes, you probably could, but then you get dental issues and all the rest of it. It's more about what have you not done to make you hungry.
Yeah. Any adds to that from the team?
Sometimes people find that if they eat with the family, say at 6, and then go to sleep at 11 because of whatever lifestyle reason there is, they might benefit from a small snack, maybe at around 9, like think about small supper, maybe small cup of yogurt, a bit of fruit, something like that. So you actually not waking up because you are hungry. Yeah.
Have the glass of milk before you go to bed rather than in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And the tryptophan pathway, Charlotte, is what's the relationship with milk and that you referred before to tryptophan?
So milk is naturally high in tryptophan, so it's a great thing to have as your sort of pre-bedtime drink. Having warm milk is often said by a lot of people. Avoiding, having a hot chocolate or something with milk too close to bed or something quite sugary, so adding something to the milk, not ideal. But again, you're still not wanting to have it, like Simone said, during the night when your body then you're sort of interrupting your sleep processes and then, forcing your body to digest something.
Just a very quick one, not necessarily sleep related perhaps, but are raw nuts better than roasted nuts? Is there a simple answer to that?
Dry roasted, just not salted. So eat your nuts roasted or raw, just avoid the salt. And in buying them, I would buy them definitely unsalted. And if you want a little bit of salt, add a little bit yourself.
Mm. Yeah, great. And that really, this is good too, even as far as evidence-based goes. I think that Charlotte's website, it would be great. This whole, in regards to nutrition for sleep, studies, references, is there a good, I think, Charlotte, your Healthy Shift work website has got a lot of really good references and studies. I'll hand to you to answer that one.
Yeah, so we've got healthyshiftwork.com.au. We've got a whole range of shift work specific food and then general nutrition and sleep. I've published a couple of reviews on sleep and nutrition, and so one on general foods and sleep and one on foods and sleep in older adults. Obviously, there's other people that are published in that area as well. Don't feel like you just have to listen to me. But yeah, our website will have a lot of those references on there.
Right.
And Moira, the Healthylife website's got some articles that you've written on it too. So if you go to the Healthylife Health Hub, you'll see some articles written by Moira, and also I wrote one on sleep and nutrition as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Can you put that in the Q&A, Simone, the link to those, or just at least at Healthy Life website would be great. Should we be eating larger meals early in our day? And think about the working day. Make this assumption for, I guess, whether you're working at night, sleeping at night or not. Should we be eating larger meals early in our waking day? What do we think on that? Is there an easy answer to that, or is it one of those things that depends?
Very much depends on individual. It's down to your preference, your family life, your work. Some people do prefer. In many European countries, I grew up eating larger meals during the day, not in the evening. So it's down to custom and how it fits with your lifestyle, really.
I'd
Yeah.
say, sorry, Maura, can I just add one on that? From the sort of research, the sort of lab-based, very clinical research, yes, having a larger meal is good for so breakfast, breaking our fast and signaling to our body that it's time to start the day. So food is used by our body as a signal that it's daytime and time to be alert and awake. So from that perspective, yes, having a bigger breakfast and then a smaller dinner at the end of your day is good. Of course, we're then balancing that with, okay, but I get up, I have to get the kids ready, I have to get to work, I can't have this huge breakfast. So it's what you can manage, like Tatiana said. But yeah, I guess sort of thinking more about, well, this is the first thing I'm having, so a sort of solid meal is good.
Yeah. I'm just so aware of there's lots and lots of fantastic questions, and skimming through them, lots of things are like about fruit and cherries, and and there's a menopause one too, which I'll just flag that we're doing a whole webinar on sleep and menopause in October, which is World Menopause Month. So please, if you don't follow us on anything, the person who asked that question, I'd really love you to just follow us on socials or look at our website. We will have a webinar in October on that. Probably I'd like maybe the magnesium story, other supplements. I think I'm going to just choose Simone to talk, or anyone can jump in about that, because my personal preference is that we don't. I'm not a dietitian. I'll say nothing. What? tell me the answer to
Your
that.
article, I think can you do an article for Healthylife? Or Healthylife did an article about the different types of magnesium and what you might or might not use them for, because there isn't a lot of evidence. It may help for some people, and I think that you really need to talk to a health professional about what type of magnesium and whether it's useful or not. So don't just rush out and buy it. Have a chat first to your pharmacist or a health professional, and I'll share a link.
Yeah, and whether you're low in it or not, a lot of people I know with sleep problems, they're not low in magnesium. It's not necessarily the cause. It's not the reason for their sleep issues. So I think a big takeaway is really, with your general sleep issues, think about what the underlying causes might be. If despite best efforts and self-help and you just don't know, you seek professional support for this stuff. Don't just go around self-diagnosing, please. I think it's a huge thing within the sleep world, or the general mental health world as well, that we often there's a lot of commercial determinants. A lot of people are sort of buying lots of things they may or may not need. There's so much to talk about. I feel like, again, even though with the best efforts, we've sort of rushed to the end. I put a final slide here just to go to our Sleep Health Foundation website, all a range of different fact sheets. You've got the resources from our wonderful panelists too. I think that if you've missed any of it, you'll get the recording. You can go back and look at that, or please contact me via our website. You can just do a general inquiry. I'll answer all your questions, particularly those that we haven't got to. I can't answer those, but just get in touch if you feel like you wanted to know more about sleep particularly and food, but sleep more generally. I want to really thank sincerely Charlotte, Simone and Tatiana for joining us today. I think it was been a really insightful webinar. Lots there, but so much more. You'd agree that we need to discuss and do more of this, but dig deeper and do more of talk around sleep and food. So thank you, everyone.